What is the cheapest possible whiskey collection you can put together that has good variety and really good whiskey throughout? I put together my list and I think it's pretty good. So let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So today we're doing this really fun challenge. I've seen a lot of other whiskey tubers do videos where they try to put together a collection under a certain dollar mark, whether it's $400 or $300 or $200. And that's a really great exercise to try to figure out what you would put together for really like a beginner whiskey collection. So I wanted to take that challenge as far as I could and see if I could put together the cheapest possible collection I can think of that would still have really good variety and really good whiskey throughout. Before we get into the list, I'm just going to take a little sip here of what I've got poured up, which is actually, a pour from one of the bottles in the list. So cheers. That's good stuff. All right, so let's get into the list. First category we've got is just traditional bourbon. Something that's really cheap and really solid and sort of crowd pleasing. For that, I went with Evan Williams Bottled in Bond. So this is just the standard white label Evan Williams, 100 proof, good heat, good nuttiness, really quality vanilla caramel flavors. Lots of people cite this as one of their favorite bottles under 20 bucks. And at around 16 bucks, I agree, it's really, really quality and really good value. So second, we've got a category where things can be a little bit different, and that is single barrel bourbons. This is great for any beginner whiskey collection because not only are you experiencing a unique bottle with some unique flavors, you're also getting to share that with others, which is always a great experience. So for the cheap single barrel bourbon game, there's really nothing better than Evan Williams single barrel. So I know it's two from the same distillery. They're cheap, bottom shelfer stuff, but Evan Williams does great stuff in that line. The 6-year green label that's only available in Kentucky and their single barrel stuff, all really good and really cheap and worth checking out. Even the black label is pretty good. So I know we're repeating the distilleries here, but I really do think for single barrel, cheap, quality stuff, there's not much better than Evan Williams single barrel, that's for sure. And if I'm doing my math correctly, we've got about 15, 16 bucks here, 28 to 30 here, so we're sitting right around 45 bucks, so pretty good. Next category is, again, something a little bit different to add to your beginner collection, and also something that's really popular in the bourbon game right now, and that is finished bourbons. Now, the finishing process, whatever the whiskey is finished in, whether it's a second oak barrel or a rum barrel or a wine barrel, whatever it is, adds this extra layer of flavor and depth often, which is a really fun thing to experience. And so for the cheap finished bourbon, we're kind of going with one of the originals, the OGs, and that is Angel's Envy. Now, Angel's Envy is a port wine finished bourbon. It is 86.6 proof, so pretty low on the proof and very easy to sip, full of wine sweetness and grape sweetness, but with some really good bourbon caramels and vanillas and deeper oaks underneath it. So can't sort of go wrong with the Angel's Envy starter as your finished whiskey. Also just a really, really nice presentation, great bottle, the angel wings etched on the back. Beautiful sort of bottle to add to any beginner collection. Fourth category now. We are moving out of the bourbon world and into a whole new category of whiskey, and that is rye whiskey. I really feel like no beginner whiskey collection can be complete without some representation of rye and the tradition of rye. And so in terms of cheap rye whiskeys that just you can never go wrong with, I really don't think there's much better than Old Forester Rye. This is a $22 bottle. It's 100 proof, full of flavor, lemon zest and black pepper and some honey and some tea. And really, Old Forester released this, I think a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago now, and they just knocked it out of the park. If you're starting out your bourbon collection and you're looking for the best cheap rye out there, my money's on Old Forester rye. And we can add one more bottle. Again, a whole new category of whiskey that we haven't represented yet, and that is Scotch. So for this fifth category of a cheap, easy to drink, good beginner level Scotch, there's nothing better than Monkey Shoulder blended Scotch. Not only is this one of the cheapest scotches you can find out there for sometimes around 30 bucks. I think I bought this for like 37, somewhere in that $30 to $35 range is probably pretty average. Really sweet, honeysuckle kind of sweetness, nectar kind of sweetness. Good introduction to the sweet and delicate flavors of a Scotch. This isn't technically one of my favorites. I've been sipping it very slowly, but it's a great thing to have as you're starting out a beginner whiskey collection and really getting into the world of whiskey. I don't think you can really say you have a whiskey collection until you have a Scotch on the shelf. So let's just take a quick look at everything we've got here. We've got the standard bourbon, 100 proof, full of flavor from Evan Williams. They're bottled in bond. Then we've got a single barrel offering. So just getting into the world of what a unique barrel can offer with Evan Williams single barrel. Then we've got a finished bourbon to get into the world of second barrels and wine and rum and all that kind of extra flavor that can be added from a finishing process. Then we've got a rye whiskey, which is, a long-standing tradition in the whiskey world. Can't really have a collection without a rye, so we've gone with Old Forester rye right around $22. And then last but not least, we've got Monkey Shoulder, a blended Scotch representing the whole world of Scotch for this beginner whiskey collection. All right, so now I'm gonna take a little sip of what I've got poured up here and let you know what I've been sipping on in my glass. Cheers, everybody. Lemon, honey, black pepper, herbalness and tea, bold flavor. That is the Old Forester rye. What a really, really good whiskey for $22. I'm telling you, I don't know what else really beats it in this category at that price. So good. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the cheapest possible whiskey collection I could come up with that still sort of has good variety and represents a lot of what you can find in the whiskey world and the whiskey hunting game. As a beginner, if you went with these 5 to start out your collection and sort of have a rounded experience, I think you'd be well on your way to having a great collection. And not only that, you will have spent less than $150 to start a really solid collection that a lot of people are gonna respect. And that is just something really cool. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Put down in the comments below what you would put on your own list to start out a bourbon collection as cheap as possible. Would love to hear what your favorite bottom shelf bourbon is. Something maybe that's underrated or really cheap that people overlook that you enjoy quite a bit. I know I haven't covered everything here, so I'd love to hear what you guys are sipping out there. If you like the video and you like really good cheap whiskey like me, smash that like button. If you're liking all the content coming out of the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps us grow. And until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good and some really good cheap whiskey, and cheers.